So in this video I want to demonstrate how you can personalize a box opening. So this is the Medium Tumbler box SVG file that we sell, and you can see I did two versions here, for Dad and Happy Birthday. So for Dad, basically what I'm doing, I'm just adding a section in here that'll be part of this box. So that little background will just be a little portion that will be now in the middle of that window. And the For Dad you could use, I'm really catering this video towards people that use vinyl for cutting out letters or symbols for the For Dad at least, because when it gets that small it is questionable whether you'd want to cut it out with cardstock, but for vinyl it would work really well. So for this one, just to show you, I'm going to ungroup it, and I'm showing you with the front panel if you're going to use it. If you're not going to, that's okay, but I just wanted to know what it was going to look like with that front panel. And then here that separates, and then this section is part of the box. So the original is over here on the right. So this is how it comes, and here are two versions that I did to personalize it. So since we're so close to Father's Day, I did one that says For Dad. If you had a personalized tumbler that you made for your father for Father's Day. So that's that. So I'm just going to group that, and I'm going to move that down. And this one, let me just zoom in a little bit. This one, I actually took an image from the Cricut image library, which is Happy Birthday, and put it in there. I'll show you both methods and explain why I use what I did, but I'm usually pretty particular about what image I will use with this because I kind of want that background. So I'm going to ungroup this. So you can see I would recommend, in this case, cutting this out with vinyl. Moving it over. Here is that top panel, and that's part of the box. So that background is always handy for that, and I will show you a little tips about this too, because you will probably notice I'm getting close to that outside panel. So I wanted to make sure there's a couple ways to manage that. So let's start with the simpler Dad one, or similar to the Dad one. Now we have this original, so this is the original. So I've already, with all these, I ungrouped them from the complete file, and then I attached the score line. So that's all a different video. So the lines are already attached on this, but when I want to do something like this where you personalize, take the original and go ahead and duplicate it. So we're going to just do one duplication. I right click and hit duplicate, and I'm going to move it over here. So I want to keep one good copy just in case something goes wrong over here. So let's go ahead and zoom in. So we'll go ahead and work on this one. Let's go ahead and do something, we can put anything on there. Let's put somebody's name. So I did For Dad for the other one, so let's go ahead and do something like, I don't know Shelby, but I'm going to put Shelby. Let me move this up. So it can be really any font. If you're doing using let's just say vinyl, you could really use any font. Now I'm not going to show you how to do an offset, because a lot of people will say, well, how do I do an offset? Well, it's not that easy in Design Space, so we're going to go with the easy way, which is creating kind of a square around it or a shape around it. So you can do it a couple ways. So let's go ahead, you can go ahead and change the font up here. So if I have that highlighted, and you can do Cricut fonts or your system fonts, but it's up to you. So you know that one of the system fonts I like is Milkshake. Okay, the only thing is that when you do sometimes when you do cursive, you have to move them together. So I'm going to show you that. Let's go ahead up here at letter space. So up here, it's called really kerning, but we're going to decrease the size of the space between the letters. Let me zoom in. So you can see I'm getting closer. If you wanted them all one and together, there's other ways to do it, but this is how you do it in Design Space. You could do it that way and hope that they go together looking okay. See, it updates. Or you can go under Advanced and say Ungroup to Letters. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so I can see it. And now each individual letter can be moved. So I don't want to move it up and down, so I'm going to hold the Shift key as I move it to the left, and I'm just lining them up. So I'm just holding the Shift key to select multiple ones, and then I clicked, and then I let go, and I'm just holding the Shift key to make sure it doesn't go up and down. When you hold the Shift key and go left and right, it won't go up and down. So that's a little trick. So I said there's other ways, other software you can use to do this, but this is the way you can pseudo do it in Cricut Design Space. So I'm giving you additional tips. So now that they're all together, we want to make sure that they're like truly all together. I'm okay with the S being by itself. I'm going to move it a little closer. But these are all separate still, so really quickly we're just going to go ahead and weld it. We'll do one without the, let me go ahead and make sure I don't select the S. So I'm making sure the S is not selected, and then can I come in the right hand corner and say weld. We wouldn't have to do this if the letters are separated like for Dad. That wouldn't make a difference at all. So, but now they're one piece, and you can see in that right hand corner it's one piece, and with the S. So the only thing I'd want to do is to highlight both, and then in the upper right hand corner, click on group. You could also right click and say group, but as of this video there's actually a glitch where it doesn't group. So, but once I get that fixed. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to size it. So let's say I want to do it straight across. I could do it that way, but I want it smaller and it could just sit in. It would be that way. So I'll show you different shapes we could use. So this one, let's just do a straight rectangle like you said I showed you earlier. So go over to the shapes on the left and click on square. Now I'm going to make it a different color. Let's match it to the color of this box. So to do that, let's click on the square, and in the upper right hand corner click on color sync. And then right here you see the Shelby, or not the Shelby, the square. We want it the same color as this, so we'll just drag that square down. Now we're going to drag it over, and I want it to be behind the Shelby. So under layers on the right hand side, I have two ways to do this. We'll do it this way. If you go at the top with the square highlighted, click on arrange and say move backwards. And you could do that as many times as you need, but in this case only one was needed. So now I'm going to put this at the top, and I'll show you why. When we resize this, we want to resize it so the bottom comes up. But if I resize that like that, it's proportionally resizing because of this little lock here, so we're going to unlock it. Then now we can move it around however we want. I'm just going to eyeball it and say okay, that's about where I want it. And let's say I wanted to come up here. I'm going to highlight both of these. Whoops. I just did an undo. Let's click on Shelby up here on the right, and then if you hold your shift key, I'm going to hit the little square so they're both together now. And we can go over here and put it at the top or the bottom, just like you saw the dad for Dad. Or you could do things like this. Like that would be fun. So let's just do that. Just as long as this right edge, the right and left edge, go over the cut opening. So this is for a window. So at this point we don't need the Shelby. We're just going to move the Shelby to the side. Since I made a duplication of this particular section, you'll notice on the right it says attach. I need to detach the score lines, else I will not be able to weld this piece to this. So I got to say detach, and I'm going to right click and say detach, or you can also do it on the right side. And then now on the right side you see that we're grouped still. Now it's just a group, but the score lines aren't attached, so we have to ungroup it. So I'm going to right click and say ungroup. So now I'm just going to move this really quick. This is where you want to be a little careful. I'm going to move this, and you can see it's independent of the score lines, and then I'll hit undo up here because we don't want to do that. Now you want to do this without moving anything because we want to make sure the score lines stay there, and you could hide the score lines temporarily if you wanted by clicking this little eye in the upper right hand corner. So now what we want to do is highlight this middle part, not the score. So in order to do that easily or more accurately, I'd go to the right, look for the cut with the medium tumbler box. Again, if it says grouped, it needs to be ungrouped. And you can see that the box is highlighted and there's something around it. And then now we find that square right there. So I'm going to hold the shift key down and then left click on it. So if I hold the shift key down again and left click on it, just make sure that it's selected. So those two are selected. And we'll go in the lower right hand corner and hit weld. Now it welded that little rectangle to it. So now you'll notice we don't see the score lines anymore. That's because if you see on the right here, the score lines are underneath it, so we have to get it back. So you could drag it down. You can go up here and say arrange, move backward. But there's a way to drag it on the right too, and we'll do that later. So now we have it set the way we want. Let's go ahead and arrange, move to center front, and you can see how it looks. So they're independent of each other, so when you cut this, you can, angle it how you want to show, like that. Control Z. Got to undo that. But once you have it done and it welded together, you want to go ahead and highlighted both. If I just do this, it'll select the score lines and the box, and you'll see on the right hand side that's the case, and then I can click on attach, and then it's ready to cut. And I'm going to move that Shelby back up, and I'm just going to drag it above it. Okay, so that's how we did that one, and you could always do, we don't really care about the panel at this point. The panel comes into play when we're talking about something that might overlap the panel. So here's another example. I typed in the word celebrate, and I'm using a Cricut font Alphalicious, which is a, it's not part of Access because it's just a cartridge I bought years ago. So I just chose one that would work for me. So whatever one you have, if you have Access subscription to fonts, you choose whatever you have or your own font. And in this case, I kind of wanted to have a little, not circle, I was going to put it like an ellipse. So I'm going to shrink down the circle. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock this little lock, pull it up a little bit. And I want something like that. And you could do all sorts of little things on it, but remember I have to have the edges go over the edges of this. And then I'm going to shrink this down. Let's go ahead and change the color real quick on it. I'm going to go ahead and I have to ungroup it and get rid of the extra layer. So over here, the hidden layer here, I'm going to delete it. Just hitting delete on my keyboard. And then let's go ahead and make it white so we can see it a little better. So whatever you wanted to use on it. So that would be our little cutout for vinyl. And then we probably would want to decrease the letter space, so to make it a little bit closer. Then I can make it larger. So anyways, you can see however you want it. And then I just want this to be squished up just a little bit more, and then say I'd put it at the top. So I'm going to move the Celebrate. Center this where I want. Let's go ahead and make it the same color. So I'm going to go over here in the color center on the right and move this ellipse down to the orange. Then we'll go ahead, I had to make sure that it's ungrouped, go back to layer. I already ungrouped and detached these lines, so we're going to go ahead and select the oval and then hold the shift key down and select the box. So on the right hand side I can see I selected score instead of the box. So let's try it again. So we'll do it through the layer panel. I clicked on the circle, and then I'm going to go ahead and find the orange version of the box and then click on that's the next one we're going to do. And now we have those both highlighted. We go ahead and weld. And again, let's go ahead and send it backwards, but I'll show you how you can drag it. So here's the score line for that. You see it's highlighted, and you can drag that above it. So it just you have to get used to seeing what you see over here because it's very helpful. And then I'm just going to highlight both and say attach. So now it's ready to cut. So when I go and do a make it, let's go look at the orange one. And you see that it has the score lines on it and it has the shape. Let's go ahead and cancel that. So that's that version, and let's go ahead and I'll show you how to do this other one that you keep on seeing pop up. I'm going to go ahead and add that here. Arrange to top. And then I would just save it in your file. I mean, it's something you could always use in a later. I'm zooming out. And I'm just going to go ahead and group it and then move it to the side. So you can see I have all these ones down here that we made so far. And here's the last one I'm going to show you using a Cricut image. Now a lot of the images you can look up. If you have a shape, again, that will go like this. Now I may not use the end of this because it's up to, it may not be what I want, right? So this is where it will come in handy to use the panel. So I'm going to show you some options here. So here's the image as I pulled it from Design Space. I did a search on, I think it's Make-A-Wish. I think I found it right there, Sweet Wishes. So I found that and I thought it would be fun to put at the top. So whatever you have, like I said, I don't have an Access subscription, but I have a lot of cartridges. Let's go back to the canvas. So I'm going to want to put it at the top. So there's two options here. The two options are, I can overlap this over this. And let me bring this up so I can see it. Let's say send to front. So if I put this over it, you see that the edges are going to be hidden. But what I can do is do this back part, and if I want it to show on top, then I have to have an extra layer, and I'll show you that in a minute here. So there's a couple options, so let's do it two ways. Let's go ahead and move that. This is grouped, so I'm going to make a decision what I want to use in this group. Let me zoom in so you can see it better, and then on the right hand side you see the grouping. I'm going to ungroup it, and I'm going to decide I'm only going to use the big one, sorry, the big heart. Actually, let's use both. So you could do this with vinyl. So that little heart is all part of Sweet Wishes. And then you have this little cut heart. and then that background, and this is a hidden one we'll delete because we're not going to use. So we have 3 different colors. So you can get if you didn't want that other heart, you could get rid of it or add it. So I'm also going to duplicate this background piece. We're going to put it to the side here. Excuse me. I'm not resizing it anymore because that's the size I want. I'm going to go over here, highlight these 3 pieces, and I want to group, I'm going to move them around because I want to put it in the right place. So let's say it looks good there. You could put it down here too. I'm just kind of eyeballing the center. Let's go ahead and match this green. Color sync it to the color of this, because it doesn't matter what paper you use. But so I just dragging that up to color sync. Oh, starting to look good. I'm going to move this sweet wishes and the heart to the side because they're different layers. And then right here, all we got to do is make sure this is ungrouped and detached. Highlight this, and then the box, and then that. So it's not doing it because of the scoring. So I'm going to hide the score for now, and then just drag over to highlight those pieces, and you can see on the right they're highlighted. Let's go ahead and weld. I'm going to go ahead and show the score lines again and drag them up. So there we go. Let's go ahead and attach the score lines, and it's all ready to cut. Now I'm just going to pull this part up, move to front, and you see we can do get a piece of vinyl and put sweet wishes on it, cut it, and just line it up. And the same thing with the heart. You can see it over here. I need it to be a little bit higher. And it's above it. So we want to just say arrange, move backwards. So there's a lot of things so you can see the preview. So in this case, I'm moving this over here so we can see what it looks like if you put a panel on. So you always want to preview it a little bit, so you see what it looks like, and it looks good that way. But if you wanted this whole effect, this to be on the outside, I'd put the panel down, and then this extra piece, I'd cut this extra piece, and before you put the sweet wishes in the heart, so let's go ahead and just see if I can highlight them over here to move them. Let me just move that out of my way. Sometimes they're a little finicky. So I'm going to move that, and then the heart. And we're going to put this back. And you'll see in a minute, I know it's taking a second. I'm going to arrange, send this to the front. And you can see you can overlap that right there. You do that little with the pop dot, get a little dimension. And then you could go ahead and add the sweet wishes and the heart on top. So just different ways that you can play around with this. So make sure they get on the right order. And you can really personalize it. And you could even not use the sweet wishes and put the heart. And this is not showing right. Let's go ahead and arrange, move backwards. So you could even put if you didn't want the heart, or you could always do the heart and somebody's name, but it shows you how you can use different images in Cricut. So the sky's really the limit based on what you have in Cricut, especially if you're an Access user. So that's just a good way to personalize. There's so many other ways, but this is one way, and a quick way to make a box something that's just so personalized that the recipient will just love it. So if you if you felt this was helpful to you, I'd ask if you could give me a little thumbs up below, and or subscribe. And if you hit the little bell when you subscribe, you'll get notified when we have new tutorials or new cut files. So let me show you them all together. So these are all the front of the Medium Tumbler boxes that I personalized. You can see these are from using Cricut images. This is just, and these three are from using basic shapes on the left and typing in text. So there's lots of fun ways to personalize any box. This was just an example, and I hope some find it very helpful, and just have fun with it. Thanks for watching, and until next time.